It is the very last trader chat before Cheltenham. This time, 2 weeks' time, we will know an awful lot more. How many winners will Ireland have had versus Britain? Something we'll talk about in terms of the only bookmaker to go up first, or certainly the first bookmaker to go up with the Presby Cup betting. Will it be 23-5? Will it be much, much closer this year? And how many horses will Millie Mullins win with? I'm told he sent 72 horses to Cheltenham next week, which is incredible. This is Johnny Ward with Flynn Goward, and we will get to Cheltenham very shortly. Firstly, we will discuss the weekend. It was quite enough in the racing front. Massive win for Manchester City in the Premier League. Flynn, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just over 1 week to go, 8 days to go, but only a couple of days until we start getting the declaration through for Cheltenham. It's kind of all systems go on the racing front, but also for me, it's a hugely busy week for me. Preview night this week, preview night next week, and then plenty of on-course activity as well, prepping all the equipment and the staff and all that type of stuff. So it's the busiest week of the year for me, probably the busiest week of the year for the firm. So just looking forward to get going, and we'll obviously get on to Cheltenham shortly, as you just mentioned, Johnny. But first, let's just have a quick look back at last week, because there is other stuff and other sports going on other than racing in Cheltenham next week. Just starting with racing, so it was a good weekend on the racing front for us, results-wise. Probably result of the weekend for us was Tamrock to Matan being beat. He was very well backed into 9-2 for the feature chase over at Newbury, beat by Paint the Dream, who's put in a performance from absolutely nowhere for Fergal O'Brien. A great training performance. He's very hot and cold, but what a performance from Paint the Dream. I'm not sure if you saw it at the weekend, but he absolutely bolted in. That was probably
Lengths, no less.
of the weekend. Yeah, he just absolutely slooshed in. Probably performance of the weekend. We had a fair few close finishes for the ITV races. We obviously have our pipped offer, so you get money back on jumps races if you're beaten in second up to half a length. Up to 50 quid. So we have Strawfan Jag, North Lodge, and Get a Tonic, just to name a few. So plenty of those at the weekend. We'll also have a pipped offer running for an increased stake once we get to Cheltenham, with a couple of other offers as well. So that's just to look forward to on the racing front. And then moving on to football, it's all hot enough in the title race now, isn't it, Johnny?
It is, yeah. And briefly, I was saying at the weekend, I'm not sure Liverpool fans have ever been cheering on Manchester United to the extent they probably were yesterday, albeit maybe in a faint-hearted manner, especially after the second goal. For a brief while in the first half, actually, after Santos goal, it looked like they might have a chance. It was a bit of a capitulation thereafter, beaten by a far better team. City were 2-5-ish, would I be right?
I think they were. I think Man United were a fair old price yesterday, but it looked tight for a certain amount of time. But in the end, it just went one way. There's that famous graphic that's kind of doing the rounds of the last 15 minutes possession: 92% City and 8% United.
Yeah.
I've also saw some funny tweets of saying this will be Liverpool fans today, and it was that picture of Jamie Carragher with the United shirt on from the Sky Sports studio, where they've also kind of challenged him and Gary Neville. Well, that was quite funny. But just in terms of the outright, so City are now 2-9, Liverpool 3-1, and then your 200 bar. So a 2-horse race, 6 points between them, and Liverpool got game in hand off the top of my head, I think. So there could be a 3-point gap once that is concluded, if Liverpool do also manage to win their game in hand. Talking top four finish, Arsenal, what performance at the weekend, 3-2.
Your
Probably doesn't
beloved
do
Arsenal.
Arsenal justice. Yeah, probably doesn't do Arsenal justice. I think we do have to be better at closing games out. It's not good for the firm. Obviously, it's good for me. We've actually laid Arsenal for the top four at odds against, I think, around the 6-4 and 7-4 mark. So they would not be a good result for us, Arsenal, but they are now 8-15. United are in there at 7-2. They've got a mountain to climb there. I think Spurs are there at 7-2, and then 18 for West Ham. So it's looking good for the Arsenal fans. In terms of relegation, Watford took another hit in the weekend. They've shortened into 8 on to go down. Norwich, obviously, they're at 33 on. They're pretty much down. But then it's all about that third place, that third bottom spot that no team will want to be finishing in. Burnley are 4-5, Leeds are 6-4, Brentford are 7-2.
4 leads now. What an unbelievable fall from grace since the start of the season.
Yeah, they just continue to shorten up. So those are the main runners for the relegation market. We have actually got the relegation treble price up on site as well. So Burnley, Norwich, and Watford favourite 8-5. Then you can have Leeds, Watford, and Norwich 11-4. 9-2 for Brentford, Norwich, and Watford. So there's a few specials we get involved in. On the football front, that's probably all football front. We've got plenty of other markets that you can get stuck into there. Don't forget, we do have our 2 good offer on the football as well. In this top class football, if your team goes 2 goals up, we'll pay you out as the winner, irrespective of result, up to £1,000. So that is the 2 good offer you can get stuck into on the football. And the last of the sports that I want to talk about from the previous week, but also looking forward, would be darts, Johnny, because the Premier League is flying at the moment. We're on to week 5 this week.
Are you taking a few quid?
We are taking a few decent bets on this, to be fair. The reason I want to talk about it this week is week 5 is in Brighton, which is obviously where we
Oh,
are
wow.
based. Yeah, exactly. So they've come to Brighton this week. I believe a couple of lads in the office are actually going. So just going to see if I can actually get the betting up there. I know outright for the Premier League that going price was 130 favourite. He'll be favourite this week as well. We've also got an offer on the darts. You get your money back as a free bet up to 50 quid if your player is beaten in a deciding frame. So do check out the week's betting as well as the complete outrights. We price up both. We're actually up for week 5 at the moment as well. So do take a look at that on the darts front. But I think now, Johnny, it's time to get to the Mecca. It's time to have a look at the Cheltenham liabilities as we head into the biggest week of the year.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think Willie's bringing over 72 horses. That was the figure that I was told, which is exactly 18 per day. And if you think about it, I guess it does kind of add up over 28 races that he might do that. But yeah, so Sir Marco said for fares, and then Henry de Bromhead and Gordon Elliott put together will have something similar. So that's the Irish kind of challenge, would be about 150 horse from those 3 stables, and that'll be very, very strong. But the first day, which we'll get to now, Flynn, is gonna, I think, tell us a lot, because the Supreme and the Arkle, the Brits have very good chances in both. Let's get straight into it. The Supreme, how is it looking at the moment? Obviously there's been a little bit of a to and fro in the market as to what runs for Willie. I think Sir Gerhard will still go Ballymore, and I think Dice Time and Kilcruise will go here. What's it looking like?
So just before we jump into the Supreme, you talked about the Irish winners there, and you mentioned earlier in the show as we opened up the Presbyterian Cup handicap. So we've priced this up on site. We've got GB plus 8.5, 5 to 6, and Ireland minus 8.5, 5 to 6. That would mean that GB, if you were to bet GB plus 8.5, you would need 10 winners to cop, and if you were to bet Ireland minus 8.5, you would need 19 winners to cop.
Yeah,
that is. Forgetting if there's a Northern Irish winner or a French winner, obviously your total will just come down there, and you would need 18 winners for Ireland or 9 winners for GB. If one of those does happen, it will obviously favour the GB plus 8.5, because you would need to obviously get less winners in terms of percentage than the Irish. We've actually seen a little bit of money for GB. It's been fairly quiet this year, surprisingly. I think I'm quite impressed with that, really, because it means that we've got the normally this type of market you would get filled in. So I'm pretty happy with where we're at thus far. But if you do fancy a wager, then have a bet.
Last year the betting, actually, strangely enough, I think it was 6.5, and it swung in favor of GB at the time. So I do think there will be. I think as people do the maths on this, there might be a bit of a movement, sort of closer to Tuesday. And I will say this: I think it's a great bet to have if you're not mad at having bets in every race at Cheltenham. Even have a few. Have a couple of £100 in this, spread over 28 races. It can give you a very good interest, and one way or the other, there may well be value there. One way or the other, it's a great interest bet to have, I think. And if I'm having a bet, it's going to be on the Irish, I'm sorry to say, Flynn.
There's a surprise. That's 101 landed for the day anyway. So jumping onto the Supreme. So in terms of what we've laid thus far in terms of liabilities, Darts Up Dynamo has been laid as big as 16 to 1. That was back in December last year. Laid all the way down to 4 to 1. That would be the biggest loser in the race for us. Like you said, Johnny, I think that Dice Up Dynamo does end up going here. I'll be very surprised if he went the Ballymore route, purely because I'm not sure that he'll settle. And I think that if he does go here, then that will mean that Sir Gerhard will go for the Ballymore. I'll be very surprised if they ran in the same race. We've also seen money for John Bon, but not at the fancy prices, really. It's always been a fairly short price. He's been well touted, being a full brother to Douvan, and obviously being with Nicky and being bought by JP earlier on. So he was never a huge price. We've laid 4 to 1. We laid him all the way down to 2 to 1. He bounced back out to 7 to 2. That was after Constitution Hill started appearing, so you can see the fluctuations in prices there. He is now a 4 to 1 shot, John Bon. We're now non-runner no bet for all races at Cheltenham, which is worth saying. So non-runner no bet for all races at Cheltenham. So we're not anti-post rules apply. We're trying to be very competitive in terms of pricing as well. So they would be the main 2 losers for us. We've not managed to get to Constitution Hill in the book at all. I could actually see John Bon going off pretty short here. I could see him going off shorter than these at the head of the market. JP factor, Nicky Henderson factor, the factor that he's Douvan's full brother. He's got the form in the book, even though it's taken a couple of hits since. I could see him going off short, whereas Constitution Hill is priced up on the wow factor, and that's already in his price. So it would not surprise me if John Bon was to go off shorter. But in terms of losers for the race, it would be John Bon and Dice Up Dynamo thus far for us here.
That brings us on to the Arkle, which is obviously a race in which, again, we've two British trained favourites at the top of the novice races at Cheltenham on day one. But Riviere, Deadtail, Blue Lord, and obviously Willie Mullins having he doesn't have the likely favourite in the race in Fernie Hollow, but he does have some Autumn Couleurs as well. I think has a definite chance. This is going to be very interesting. A lot of people are against Edward Stone. A lot of people are with him. Is the book good or bad at the moment?
It's a good looking book for us, to be honest. We've actually got quite a few decent positions. We've not kind of been stung by any bad positions this year so far. Touch with famous last words, we'll get stung today, I'd imagine, by a big shortener or a mover. Edward Stone would be a loser. We also had Fernie Hollow for a good few quid. So even though we don't want these horses to be out injured, in terms of how the book looks, it would be a decent enough one because we laid Fernie Hollow at fairly decent prices around the 2-1 mark before he was unfortunately pulled out. A very fragile horse. Edward Stone would be the loser. He's 2-1. Blue Lord's in there at 3. Riverdale 7-2, as you just said. Houghton Couleur 6. The mover in the market is Houghton Couleur. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Pretty moody pronunciation, but was around the 8-1 mark. Now into 6. And you've got to think he's priced up on not doing a huge amount, really. But I think that just shows what type of a race this is, really. Let's be honest. The fact that he's 6-1 and he's only double the price of Blue Lord, who won that decent race over in Ireland at the Dublin Racing Festival. Off the head of the market here, we have laid a little bit of Blue Lord as well. Blue Lord was laid as big as 9-1 at the start of January. So would be Edward Stone and Blue Lord for the Arkle that we would want beat. But Houghton Couleur, in terms of a market move, would be the biggest mover for the race thus far.
Yeah, he ran a blinder at the race last year. I'm not mad on Blue Lord. He's a horse that, I don't know, he didn't find a lot of Leopardstown. I thought he was lucky enough to even hold on to Stewart's Inquiry. I'm not guaranteed. I think that Paul Townend will absolutely definitely ride him. Houghton Couleur, 5-year-old, who obviously fell in the same race, was short enough price. Champion Hurdle. A couple of views on this, I suppose, Flynn. You could say it's not much of a race. You could also say, well, we have Tiopo coming up. We have Appreciated, who was unbelievable when we last saw him, and we have Honeysuckle, who's one of the outstanding hurdlers of my generation. But again, I don't know, is this market ever going to spring to life at this stage?
No, it's a very difficult one, ante-post. It's probably been our quietest race, especially the championship races, ante-post. Not a huge amount of people want to get stuck into a really short price ante-post. That's one you can stick in the multis on the day or the multis pre-event. In terms of a loser for the race, it would still be Honeysuckle. We've made a bit of 7-4. That was at the back end of last year, but would be a very small loser. We've seen a few bets for Tahupu each way. It's probably going to shape up as quite a nice each way race for punters, not the nicest each way race for us, unfortunately. Like I say, I think that Honeysuckle could be vulnerable here. I think Tahupu is possibly the one to be taking her on with. The price is in to appreciate it already, whereas Tahupu should improve for the better ground. Is the unexposed one in the race. I think the form of the run the last day, we spoke Trader Chat a couple of weeks ago. I don't think that's miles away from what Honeysuckle did in the Irish Champion, to be honest, when he beat Durasso. Gave Durasso an absolute thrashing, who's a 155 horse on bread and butter ground for Durasso. So Tahupu would be one that I'll be taking Honeysuckle on with. But I would imagine come the day that this is the one where the big bets on course are going to be flying into Honeysuckle in the big one on the Tuesday.
Yeah, and just briefly, the other races then on the Tuesday, we've basically a catalogue of Irish favourites, and I think what'll be possibly the most interesting betting race of the rest is the Fred Winter with that Gaelic Warrior at Chasse. He's obviously only run in France. I think HMS Seahorse is going to run very well against him. He's a more pragmatic bet, but the Irish look very strong otherwise in that first day, Flynn.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the Boodles. The obviously Fred Winter juvenile handicap. This Gaelic Warrior, I've got a lot of people telling me this could be going off 6-4, 11-10, mad short. It's 5-2 with us now. We have seen some war money for it at 11-4 as well, so people are still thinking that it's going to go off shorter. Obviously been given a mark of 129. Was rated about £10 higher over in Ireland, so it's been given a mark £10 less. For very true connections in Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie. This could go off really short. You'd like to think it's in the price now because everybody knows everything that should be known about this horse, but I could see it going off even shorter. And like I say, it would be a loser in the race for us, and people are still coming for this horse, Gaelic Warrior. A lot of people saying that this was Willie's Triumph horse, but they had a bit of a setback, hence why they've gone down this route. And when they saw the mark and Vauban kind of got stepped forward to the Triumph, have you heard similar your end?
Yeah, well, I heard that they were talking about saving him for the Supreme next year if he didn't run, and that he's supposedly working very well with Vauban and all that. So yeah, I mean, I think the betting's going to get this fairly accurate because he could be absolutely smashed. I don't think they're horse in the Fred Winter that are screaming out to have a lot in hand, which is the nature of the race at this stage. Apart from this horse, it was obviously very hard to assess and looks like he might have gotten in off a reasonable mark if you're just taking on the Willie Mullins factor as well. He's a lack for experience, but you can just see people piling into him if there's good word from him and they're struggling on day one.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, even if it's the other way around, and they've had a few winnings on Honeysuckle and the like, there's every chance that that those winnings are played up onto Gaelic Warrior here. I mean, the fact that Phil Dorr's third in, and we know pretty much a lot about Phil Dorr, and he could potentially go this route with the Marquis Scott. I think is it 141 or 142?
Yeah,
he'll be running off here.
I think he should. I actually think he should run in this race, because I can't see how he wins the Triumph. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, potentially. I think Gordon thinks that the new course will be right up his alley, but he might be talking about. There's every chance. Obviously, we do see trainers doing this, so it wouldn't surprise if he went the Boodles route. So that would be the Boodles. From the others, the Ultimate, we've seen a few moves here. Death Juicy, obviously given £1 less than his Irish mark, very well found in the market, 13-2. Would have to defy the general stat here that the GB horses just tend to win this race. Fantastic Ass is another one's been well bet. We laid 14 about that one. That one's into 10-1. So Fantastic would be a very well bet horse in the Ultimate for us. In the Mares Hurdle, Queensbrook has been the ones they've come for here. We were 10-1. We're now into 6-1 for Queensbrook. So Queensbrook's been the ones well bet, well taught up by Gordon in his stable. Talking to she'll come on a lot for the last day, just behind Burning Victory. She's actually shorter in the market than Burning Victory. Burning Victory's in there at 7 and Queensbrook's in there at 6. So she would be a loser for us there. And then the last one to talk about is the National Hunt Chase. I still think there's one in here at a big price, and that's Brayside. Talked up very well by Gordon. Jamie Codd's going to ride it. We're 12-1. They're slightly bigger out there. We did see a bit of money at 14 this morning for Brayside. You can still get a decent price about a horse that Jamie Codd's going to be riding in the National Hunt Chase. I find that a bit maddening here. I don't think Statler's going to get home. Run Wild Fred has obviously got obvious claims, but could be a little bit of a dodge spot. Vanillier does jump fantastically well. So yeah, I think Brayside, there's still value in that 12-1 there. I'm surprised that the market's not cottoned on. Normally it does very, very quickly when Jamie Codd's going to ride one. But yeah, so an interesting one in the National Hunt Chase. We've actually laid that one this morning as well. So that would be day one, Johnny. We've spent a fair bit of time on that, so I guess we can whiz through the remainders now.
Yeah, so day two starts to Ballymore. Obviously, I still think Sir Gerhard will run here. I think he's a great chance. Ginto is a good horse as well. Obviously, it looks a race that the Irish will probably win. It will be interesting to see if anything else does end up running in it. But yeah, Sir Gerhard could go off even money here, something like
that. Possibly. Depends if the money comes with Ginto or not. Just in terms of how the race looks for us. We've actually laid ones at bigger prices that probably aren't going to end up going here. So in terms of a result in the book for us, it would be decent thus far. Iron Maximus, Kilcrut and Free Strut Ride for the ones that we've laid. We've laid a little bit of Ginto recently around the 11-2, 5-1 mark. He's now 9-2 Ginto. What I would say is that I did the preview videos with Davey Russell last Monday, and we talk about all of Gordon's horses, and he obviously gives a word for him, and we don't know which ones he's going to be riding, etc. But I asked him about Ginto because he was on Hollow Games the last day behind him, and his eyes just lit up about Ginto.
Yeah.
And he was the one horse I took away from David that day where it's just a little glint in his eye about him, where he just thought he was an absolute machine. And you have to think that I don't think David would be on it. I think Jack will probably ride him.
Yeah.
So to talk up another horse that one of the other jocks could potentially be riding was quite notable, I thought. He thought that he jumped right the last day, that because he had a lead, he could have jumped left if they were going the other way around. When he gets a lead and when they're jumping at pace, he thinks they'll be ironed out. He's a quicker horse than what people make out of him. So I think that Ginto will have large chances in that race, even if Sir Gerhard turns up. So that's just one to watch. It would be Ginto. He'd be a small loser in the race, as well as the others that I previously just mentioned. The next race to talk about would be the Brown Advisory. We're not sure what to make of this race yet, because we just don't know what's going to turn up, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised with the Galopin Des Champs. The way it's looking at the moment. At the same time, I would not surprise me at all if there was a change. We're basing it kind of on the comments that Willie made in an interview in terms of that he'd probably take on Galopin Des Champs. But I'm not sure. I think, if Paul Townend has a word with him, they might have a change of heart here. If he doesn't run here, I think Capodanno and Beacon Edge is an interesting horse as well. He ran very well at the festival last year. Didn't run badly at all, giving weight away the last day. Jumps quite well. And I'm not sure what to make of, in terms of the British Challenge here. A short enough price favourite probably in Brave Man's Game. And if Galopin Des Champs doesn't run. But I still think it's just hard to call this race at the moment in terms of what will run it.
Oh, very, very difficult. I think that Galopin will probably go the other route potentially with 4-5 Galopin here, 5-4 Bob just 7-4 Brave Man's Game, and 9-2 Bar. They look like very unattractive prices, but again, non-runner, no bet. So obviously you'll get your money back if one of these horses doesn't go. So a little bit of money for Long Press here, thinking that he's going to possibly reroute due to the fact that the other two were well tied to go to the Turners. So he's into 5-1 for Long Press. One I like here at a big price, Johnny, would be Fury Road. He's been given a mark of 160 in the handicaps. I think that's £6 higher than his Irish mark of 154. That kind of weights him out of the handicaps. I don't think they'll go down that route now. And they've obviously got Death Duty as favourite for the ultimate anyway. He won't go to the 4 miler, so I think he probably ends up going here. And he's a very hot and cold horse. He was smashed up in the Stayers Hurdle last year, going off around 4-1. Didn't run a great race, but again, a hot and cold horse. Has ran to decent marks, only just below Brave Man's Game, and he's a much bigger price at the 12-1 mark. So he'd be one that I'd put up there. In terms of losers in the race for us, Galopin Des Champs and Brave Man's Game would be the losers here, and the fields would win a decent little sum.
Yeah, just bear in mind, obviously, that's an non-run no bet option, because if you do get non-runners that you expect just might possibly run a different race, you can get great value angles on others in the same race, particularly around about the 4 or 5-1 mark. Champion Chase, what a race this is going to be. I think this is the race after which I'm going to make a show of myself. If your selection wins, is that right?
What are you talking about here?
Didn't I say that if Newbury and Kelso won, I'd do something completely mad? Did I not?
Oh, you did. You turned around and said that you would do something with no clothes on, I seem to remember. I mean, it was coming close to that when an Energumene almost got ruled out in the week.
Yes.
So there's still every chance. I mean, I'm surprised by the market. So when the Energumene news came out that he had a stone bruise and now apparently he's all working fine, he was out to 10 on Betfair. Came into 5 on Betfair when they revealed he's fine, and I'm thinking, hang on, they just said he's had a stone bruise a couple of days ago, and he's shortened right back in. In terms of prices, with 4-6 Shishkin, 7-2 Shakan Portswar, 4-1 Energumene, and 10-1 Newbury and Kelso. So we have Shakan in at shorter because we think that there could still be slight doubts about Energumene. Again, you do get your money back, but you have to take into account the fact that his work may have been slightly hampered here. In terms of losers, Newbury and Kelso would be a decent loser for us here. Now 10-1 with laid as big as 16 and 14. I still think that one of them won't turn up in terms of Shishkin and Energumene. Obviously, looking more likely like the Energumene side of things now. Newbury and Kelso would be a decent each way bet here for me, and especially now because you think that if Energumene doesn't end up running, he's probably going to be a 7 hope on the day.
Yeah, and Shishkin will simply just win. I think it's as simple as that. Although I really do hope we've had Shakan Portswan and Energumene both scratched late on prior to Cheltenham runs before, and hopefully the three of them do show up for one of the races of the week. We'll finish off now with the rest of day 2, after which things will be a lot clearer. Obviously, if the champion bumper is going to be a hell of a race.
It certainly is. Facile Vega very, very strong at the head of the market there around the 5-6 mark. Some strong words for American Mike in the week, but you just think that everyone just thinks Facile Vega is an absolute machine, and I would imagine that the punters are going to be rolling onto that one as we get late into the day. Maybe some Shishkin and Facile Vega doubles on the Wednesday. In terms of other races, Coral Cup on the Wednesday, we've seen a fair bit of money for Drop the Anchor against the Pat Fahey trained. Kevin Blake put it up in the week on one of the preview shows. That was betting from 11-1 into 8-1. Unexpected Party's also been well back there. That's into 8-1. That is the Dan Skelton charge. And I just don't think there's anyone better than Dan Skelton over this side of the pond to prep one for a handicap. He's got Langer down in the Martin Pipe, which we'll get onto later. You've got Unexpected Party here. He obviously did it with West Cork in the Greatwood Hurdle, so he's got back form of doing it as well. So those would be the two losers for us in the race. Would be Unexpected Party and would be Drop the Anchor. And the other one to talk about is the Grand Annual. Seen a bit of money for Andy Dufresne here, given a mark of 155. That is a JP owned horse. Andy Dufresne is now 12-1. But Buddy Rich has been well back there, obviously very well touted from earlier in the season. Is a 6-1 favourite. So those will be the two losers in the race in the Grand Annual.
Yeah, and we just want Andy Dufresne to get punters out of jail, on day 2. But if you're not out of jail, you have day 3. And if you haven't backed Andy Dufresne, and we obviously have the Turners Novice Chase that starts off. And as we mentioned, in terms of the Brown Advisory, this probably is all about what turns up, what doesn't turn up. If the two of them turn up, and that's Galopin Des Champs and Bob Ollinger, what wins, Flynn?
Bob Oninger for me. I think he's an absolute machine. I think he's got the biggest engine in the race. I think he's achieved slightly more, probably more over hurdles, to be fair. But Davey was giving Bob Oninger a big talk up, and he just thinks that he's an absolute good thing. So he'd be the one for me. He's 10 to 11, 11 to 10 Galopin de Champ, 7 to 2 Long Press, 5 to 1 Brave this game, and 7 Blue Lord. I wouldn't be looking at the bigger ones in the market here. I think it's all about the head of the market. And even if you don't have a bet, obviously we do want you to have a bet with us. But if you don't, I think it's just a watching race, which would be a fantastic watch. Bob Oninger would be the biggest loser in the race for us as well. So as the way it shapes up at the moment, with these anti-post markets, again, it's not huge money at the moment. So they'll kind of be dwarfed when we do get to day of race, and even a couple of days before when we get the 48-hour decks. But just in terms of the moment, Bob Oninger would be the one that we would not want to be winning this race.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put you off back in the run. No bet. As I said, I'm not 100% sure Galopin de Champ is going to run here. That brings us on to the Ryanair. And again, this is a one-horse book, Flynn.
Certainly is. Fakir Duderi and Allaho would both be losers here. It doesn't look like Fakir is going to go. Allaho obviously certainly is going to go. You're 8-13 Allaho, and then you are 10-1 Fakir Duderi. Looks like he's probably going to wait it out and go straight to Aintree. There's probably a bit of value in the market here at bigger prices because Energume's not going to go, Applitar's not going to go, Chacun Pour Soir's not going to go, Conflated might not go. Chamblou does have handicap options, although he'll probably go here. So something like Janadil at 10-1 potentially, or even Eldorado Allen at 12 wouldn't be the bad each way play. But this could be one of the most solid favourites of the week, and this could be going off 3 on. I think it genuinely could go off really, really short. It'll be the shortest price of the week. I was going to price up who's going to be the shortest price of the week, but then I thought it's just no point because it's just going to be Allaho.
Yeah.
So he's 8-13 at the moment. There's probably value there, and I would imagine will be a massive loser come the day.
Extremely difficult renewal of the stayers with Flooring Porter, Time Hill, Champ, Classical Dream, all having sort of claims, but you could kind of take them on at the same time. Royal Kahala, who I think is likely to run here unless it gets very soft, which might get soft, obviously comes into as well, won the Galmoy. I imagine this has been a quiet enough anti-post book.
It has. We did see a fair bit of Champ at 20-1 before he won the long walk. There was question marks about whether he would go the Gold Cup route and whether the long walk was just a prep. But when he obviously went and won the long walk, he's obviously gone much shorter for this, although disappointing the last day. So Champ and Flooring Porter would be the most solid and would be the ones that we've laid. They're the only 2 losers we have anti-post. I like one at a big price here, Johnny, and I'm just going to throw it out there quickly. It's called Home by the Lee. We're 33-1. It's trained by Joseph O'Brien. He came second against Royal Kahara in the race where Classical Dream bombed out. He was racing on the wrong side of the track. He lost a couple of lengths jumping down the back straight. When he came next to Royal Kahara, he stayed on really nicely. Could be a potential improver. And in a race where you've got question marks at the head of the market, I think he's one that you could potentially take a flyer on. So he'd be one of the better bets for me at around 33-1 in the stayers.
And now I know why you asked me to ask Joseph what the plan was with Home by the Lee. It's all coming together. What about the rest of day 3? This is quite a fascinating, actually, day 3 in terms of the Mares Novice, which looks quite hot. As much as I don't like Mares races, obviously the Muir is a big betting race, well, the Paddy Power Plate and so on.
Yeah, there's plenty going on here. There was an article this morning from the trainer of Impervious saying that they thought Impervious had a decent chance in the Mares Novice. Been a fairly quiet race. It would be a bit of a stinger one for punters. I think it was El Gory Devassi was the favourite here and got ruled out last week. Yeah. Was around the 5-2 mark. So not a great one for punters here, but Impervious has been well touted. That's in there at 8-1. In terms of the other races, in terms of well-backed horses, Winter Fog for the potential. We saw plenty of money for it at 11s and 10s. Again, that's another Kevin Blake job in the midweek. Can't imagine the owners will be too pleased that they're also being tipped up and the price is going. But that is now around the 13-2 mark, I believe, for the potential. Have a look here. No, it's 5-1 now. So absolute smash-up job for the Paul Byrne owned. And who trains Winter Fog again? Is it Emmett Mullins?
Yeah, so it's he kind of travelled. He may have taken it up a bit too soon at Leopardstown. Myself and Andy Holding tipped him as well, actually, on another podcast. So he's certainly gotten a lot of double and treble penalties of people tipping him. But he does have a chance. He's quite likely race as well, and it's a bit like the shunter, where they're same connections as the shunter, and he could be well backed. But obviously, it's a very tricky race, and he does have a high enough mark. I think he's £7 higher in Britain as well.
Yeah, we do see these marks though. They said presenting Percy had absolutely no chance. It was ridiculous. Then he went and absolutely scooted in. So he's been the most backed, and he would be a decent loser in that race. Some interesting ones in that race as well. We played it with Alaphilippe 8-1. I know Paul Keeley's keen on that one, and the big galloper. So there are a few in that race which are so-called buzzers. The other one which we've laid ante-post will be for the plate, and as Imperial Alcazar, who won at Cheltenham last time out. We've laid 12s. He's now into 8-1 for the Paddy Power plate. Very well touted. I would imagine he's going to be going down that route. And the other one which we've laid, would be in the Muir that you previously just mentioned. Frontal Assault, very, very strong favourite. We've seen plenty of that throughout the year. That's now 4-1. Rob James is going to be on that one, claiming 7. But Smoking Gunners have been a big shortener. We're now 6-1. I think you can get slightly bigger out there, but we are just under this one. Confirmed that Jamie Codd is going to ride this one. Gordon's very happy with him. He's been the big shortener this week. We were 16 when we were ante-post rule supply. We're now 6-1 non-runner, no bet. But looks like that's probably going to be one of the gambles as we get to the Thursday. But those are the best backed horses in the Thursday in the handicaps.
So it's day 4 and the Triumph. I think Vauban wins this. Pied Piper is the danger. Talk to me.
Vauban very well backed into 13-8 now. Vauban and Pied Piper were similar prices for a lot of the ante-post time around the 15-8 mark. But now Pied Piper's out to 5-2. Fieldall's in there at 11-2. Porticello 6-1. It's all about Vauban here. I think very, very hard to beat, and I think he'll be going off uber short, and he's going to be one that the punters are probably going to get stuck into in the Triumph on day 4.
Yeah, the Albert Bartlett, then obviously Hillcrest, Manella Crooner, journey with me, Manella Kakuna, who somehow has been consistently bigger in the betting than Manella Crooner, despite beating him and jumping unbelievably well, obviously at Leopardstown, and this looks open.
I think there's probably a question that Manella Kakuna could go the Ballymore route, might suit a little bit better in terms of the style. Manella Crooner has been the one that we've laid. We laid 6-1 after him coming second to Manella Kakuna at the Dublin Racing Festival. Very obvious that he was going to be a very nice Albert Bartlett type, you would imagine, in terms of style of running. Hillcrest has been the one to support in recent days, so he'd be a decent loser. Hillcrest backs him from 5-1 into 7-2. So we've got 7-2 joint favourites in the shape of Hillcrest and Manella Crooner. One at a decent price that I don't mind is Bardenstown Lad for the John McConnell stable. Ran well at the track, was a huge price in running that day when he won at the track, was really well backed. Looks a real hardy sort. I think this race could really suit him. So he's just one that I've thrown out a bigger price. But in terms of losers, Manella Crooner and Hillcrest thus far.
I can't see why A Plus Tard is favoured for the Gold Cup. I'm actually going to interview Rachel Blackmore in an hour and a half. I don't really see why this horse is favoured for the Gold Cup when Indy beat him.
Are you going to ask her that when you're there?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not mad about asking jockeys about odds in particular, but I don't necessarily see why he'd reverse the form with Manella Indo. He also has to reverse form with Galvin, who seems to be impressing everyone at home, and obviously loves Cheltenham and will love the hill. So I'd have A Plus Tard. I couldn't have him favoured anyway, but I don't know what you make of it.
Well, Galvin would be our worst result of the week. I did tell Davey that on last Monday, because I was on the panel with Luke, Bill, and Davey, and those three tipped up Galvin, and then they came to me for the liabilities. I said, actually, Galvin is our worst result in the week.
Beautiful.
We laid a fair bit. We laid a fair bit of 6-1 after he won the Savills. Fantastic ride from Davey that day. He would be the worst result of the week for us. I'm still banging the Protectorat drum. I'm still banging the Dansgeln drum there. So hopefully Protectorat will run a really nice race in there at 8-1. I would be of a similar thing to you about A Plus Tard. I guess you could say that Henry's round Nick at Christmas. But I just don't think he's going to stay the Gold Cup trip very well. I can't have Manella Indo because you're just relying on the fact that he's going to be a spring horse and come back around at Cheltenham. Hence why I'd want to be on Protectorat. Galvin is the solid one there. It's just the case, is he good enough? And we'll find out at 3:30 on the Friday next week, Johnny.
Yeah, very open renewal of the Gold Cup, and Album Photo obviously trying to, I guess, counter a bad record of 10-year-olds in the race, but does come into it on the back of having such a good record in the race. The rest of the day, then we have the Mayor's Chase, obviously Martin Pipe, and with the County Hurdle as well, which used to be the final race of the festival. Yes, what is it looking like here as we all think about life subsequent to Cheltenham, as it all ends up on the Friday?
Well, the County and the Mine Pipe kind of interchange with each other here in terms of runners, because State Man plays a part in the head of market in both races. Recent money suggests that he's going to be going down the County Hurdle route. Originally, a lot of people thought he was going to go to the Mine Pipe. He's now 4-1 for the County. We've seen a fair bit of money for him for the County, so there's every chance that he ends up going there. He would be a loser in that book. And in terms of the Mine Pipe, this is all about one horse, and that is Langadan. Obviously, well talked about the fact that he's been dropped for that run at Taunton £3 the other day, which does seem a little bit ludicrous, to be honest. He's been backed into 9-2, was as big as 8-1. Adamantly Chosen's also been backed here. Adamantly Chosen backed here, and then State Man back for the county. So it could be to do with running plans there, which is fairly interesting to look at. But I would imagine that fair people are going to be looking to either get out of jail or just enhance their winning weeks with Langadan and Adamantly Chosen as we get to the Martin Pipe.
And we know the feeling. So if you are on the website, check out all the Cheltenham offers between now and Tuesday. And as we mentioned, non-runner, no bet. And if you are at the track, call over to Flynn and Ben Keith and all the lads at Star Sports Pitches. You'll be buzzing for it, Flynn. Absolutely buzzing.
I will be. Like, once I'm all set up on the Tuesday, because we've got so much equipment, I've actually had to hire a van this year. We've got so much stuff. So I'll be driving up on the Monday, doing a preview night on the Monday night in Cheltenham. So do check that out. That's the Racehorse Owners Club preview night. Decent panel there. And then on to Cheltenham on the actual racecourse on the Tuesday, where we've got a pitch in Tats. So I'll be in Tats with Mr. Penkeith himself. Then we'll have a pitch down on the rail as well, which will tend to be on the bottom rail for the Cheltenham Festival in March. So do come and see us there. If you want to open an account with us, and obviously go ahead and do that, and then you can bet online or come and see us on the pitches.
Beautiful. It's all ahead of us. 4 days, 28 races, so many favourites. Check out the Presbyterian Cup market as well if you want to bet on that. That was Johnny Ward and Flynn Goward, and we will talk to you after Cheltenham when we'll all be richer or poorer.